Hopefully there's no problems on here tonight. I'm just going to wait for the numbers to come up. It's just to let everybody know that me and Laura have set up this channel to expose child trafficking, grooming in Glasgow and Scotland, and how bad the problem really is. I've tried to make a Facebook video with this live last night, but it was in 4 parts, so it got me that mad that I thought I'm going to try our YouTube channel. But again, we're just trying different platforms to raise awareness about the seriousness of child abuse in Scotland and how bad and how much in danger our children are. So we're going to be doing different live videos and stuff and trying different things. So I'll just, where I'm starting and getting the numbers, I'll just tell you at the start here that there's, so I always forget to mention, so we've got the YouTube channel Expose Scotland, that's me and Laura. Hi for Edinburgh, I've got some stuff on Edinburgh. So tonight I'll tell you firstly, what I'm going to be talking about tonight is a live I tried to do last night. It's a wee bit about the British establishments, paedophile rings. So I don't want to go into too much about England because me and Laura want to focus on Scotland. The problem is here in Scotland because we live here in Scotland and we need to tackle the problem in our own cities and countries first. So basically I'm going to tell you a bit about the Westminster paedophile rings and the Lords, right? I'll just give you some names in that. Some freedom information. And I'll also be giving you, so I want to give the link to this, the Westminster paedophile ring, how it's linked to the Scottish establishment paedophile ring, like the lawyers and the judges and stuff in Edinburgh, and how it's all the same paedophile ring basically that's running our country, and they have been for decades and decades. There's stuff available out there if you want to take the time to go and read it. But this really is our problem. Our governments and establishments are exploiting and selling and trafficking our children, and us as parents are just sitting here taking it. As well as there's COVID going on, like I said, there's a real pandemic of child exploitation and trafficking in Scotland. I'm going to give you some facts and figures and numbers and ask you to take it on board to do your own research and make yourselves aware of the problem here in Scotland and Glasgow. It's sickening. It's sickening the amount of paedophiles that are running about our streets. Like, it's not a conspiracy, it's not a myth. Also, we keep getting removed and censored and stuff. The Scottish Government have shown time and time again that they're not interested in this problem. They're part of the problem. They are the problem, so is the legal system. So I don't know where it's going to take. But as I said, so me and Laura, we've got the YouTube channel Expose Scotland. There's a website that Rob S has set up. If you're aware of Rob S, he's Anti-Corruption Scotland. Well, we're all kind of linking together just now. We're all individuals exposing the corruption and the dark side of Scotland. But we're all starting to get together. So we've got Anti-Corruption Scotland website, he's got a lot of the Save Our Children videos and stuff on there as well. Expose Scotland, we've got a group, me and Laura, on Facebook, it's called Expose Scotland. I don't know if you're all aware of, I hope you don't mind Alex, but Alex Carney, he's got a Facebook page and he does his own thing too. He's also got a YouTube channel, AC Coming Back to Life, and that's about mental health and stuff. So together, like, we're all collective, working individual, but collectively trying to find a solution to this problem in Scotland that I'm going to tell you just now how high it goes, and just how disgusting it is. So I'm going to give you a bit about a whistleblower that first blew the whistle on the high paedophile ring, a couple of police operations that were done, the paedophile ring that encircles British politics, and then I want to just go into Scotland. I've got a list of police that have been convicted, Police Scotland that have been convicted paedophiles and are now free, what they were convicted of and stuff, and some army and military in Scotland, what they were convicted of. I never had them on my live last night, but I've found some stuff in the army and the military, because I want to talk about Dunblane and the Queen Victoria School in Dunblane as well tonight, and the 100-Year Secrecy Act, and some information on that. So basically I just want to link the high elite paedophile rings in Britain in England to Scotland and to how it's all the same thing. These are the people, these are the monsters that are running our country. So through freedom of information request, just before I move on, because I forgot to say this last night, me and Laura discovered the other day there's 27,000 missing children in Scotland. Where are these children? Where are these children in Scotland? Right, there's 27, through freedom of information, 13,000 and something in 2018, another 8,000 and something in Scotland in 2019, and in 2020 to the now there's 5,000 missing. So 20, don't know what that adds up to, I'm sure it was 27,000 roundabouts missing children in Scotland. Where are these kids? Where are these missing children? So I'm going to read about the highlight paedophile rings and maybe you'll get an idea where these kids disappear to. So I'm going to start off with a wee bit of information that was in July 2014, right, when it kind of kicked off. There was a whistleblower claimed at least 20 high-profile members of the British establishment formed a VIP paedophile ring that abused children for decades. Peter McKelvey, 65, said senior politicians, military figures and even people linked to the royal family were among the alleged abusers. The campaigner who raised the alarm about prominent individuals engaged in child sex abuse 2 years ago said it goes back 65 years. Speaking in public for the first time, the former local authority child protection chief said there were still people in power who had been involved in the child abuse 2 decades ago. They're still in power right now. He helped convict notorious child abuser Peter Wrighton. He's now dead. He was a founding member of PI, which tried to decriminalise sex between children and adults, and that was part of the Westminster government. I'm sure people are aware of that. McKelvey told the BBC for the last 30 years and more than that, there have been a number of allegations from survivors that people at the very top of the very powerful institutions in this country, which include politicians, judges, senior military figures and people in the royal family, have been involved in child abuse. There was an operation called Operation Fairbank, and Operation Fairbank led to 1,444 suspects being identified as prominent figures in the United Kingdom. So you're talking about celebrities, judges, prominent public figures. So there was 1,000. This whistleblower and that all led to an operation being done by the chiefs of police across Scotland and England, Ireland and Wales, and it found 1,440 odd celebrities, judges, MPs, politicians, prime ministers, lots of different people, all these names that come up, that were a part of this paedophile ring for operating. So this is what Operation Fairbank uncovered, right? And he's saying that there's no strong evidence. He believes that there's if there's a lot of information out there about this, that us as the people could gather all this evidence and turn this information, convert this information and get it investigated properly, because there is enough information out there to gather all this evidence. So there's been an extremely powerful elite among the highest levels of political classes for as long as I have been alive, and I am now 65. So he's saying among these political classes, like for at least 65 years operating in the United Kingdom, these paedophile rings, and they're in charge of running the country and making the laws. So basically, I've got stuff on Operation Fairbank somewhere. I don't know if I should read that now, probably actually, before I name these monsters. So I'll also read this now, right? So see, Peter McKelvey, the former child protection officer, man, claims senior members of the armed forces, peers, judges and politicians were part of a powerful elite paedophile ring who have been abusing children for decades. I'll name these guys later, right? These are guys in the army and stuff that are part of the Queen's Guard that have been charged with paedophilia and child abuse, but I'll leave that now. I just wanted to find Operation Fairbank, if I've got some stuff on it here somewhere. But it will definitely come up because there's more stuff on that. So there's a paedophile ring that encircles British politics, right? So I'm going to just name some of them. There's loads of them, and I don't want to. You could do a full video on that itself. So this was published in 2013. In 1998, the first articles began to appear in what was a limited internet distribution regarding the paedophile ring surrounding 10 Downing Street. And the 6th of September 2010 posted an article naming Jimmy Savile, also connected to quarriers in Scotland and other children's homes in Scotland as well, committing part of the Scottish Child Abuse Inquiry. So yesterday the same allegations were aired publicly for the first time in the House of Commons by MP Tom Watson. So Lord Granville Jenner, Labour peer, Jenner raped a 15-year-old boy at the Holiday Inn in Glasgow the night before the boy was due to give evidence in the court. So the night before the boy was due to give evidence in court, Jenner's legal team took the judge out for dinner, and they somehow agreed that when the court case went ahead the next day in court, the boy, and I think it was, which court was it, the Sheriff or the High Court in Glasgow? It must have been. It doesn't say. So anyway, when they went to, so it was agreed at that dinner that night when the wee boy went to court the next day that he could tell his story and that he got raped and stuff, but he wasn't allowed to mention that it was Lord Granville Jenner that done it. So how that, or the boy would then be in contempt of court. So this wee boy was a victim, right, of this fucking Lord guy raping him in the Holiday Inn in Glasgow. And he wasn't allowed to name the guy that done it because he's a lord in one of your courts in Glasgow, right? Or he would have get found guilty of contempt of court. Contempt of court for mentioning who raped him. So try and get your head around this stuff, right? So anyway, so that went to court and he got away with that because of that. So Lord Kaufman, Labour peer, very well known to the police in London for sexually abusing young boys. Lord Britton, he's very well known for raping young boys. The police raided his house when a young boy staggered into the street half naked, and when the police asked what happened, he told them that Britton and his friends took him to a house, and when they called in to report what had happened, so when they went to the police station to report what had happened, because they were all told to go there, right, there was 2 officers for the security services waiting. So I take it security services like MI5 or MI6 or something. So they were waiting and the boys going in to give evidence because it was against Lord Britton. And the boys were paid off. Liam Britton was summoned to meet with MP William Hague on a beach in Brighton at 6:15 in the morning, where he was told he would be made commissioner for the UK. That was how he became commissioner, where he stayed for many years until the corruption inquiry went ahead, which saw a large number of people from different countries made to resign. Anthony Charles Lunton Blair, Tony Blair, former MP of the UK, he appeared at Bow Street Magistrates Court for trying to get sexual favour in a public toilet of a young boy. He walked away with no one really even knowing who he was because he used his middle name in court. Now, he was allowed to use his middle name and know his real name, so he must have used Charles Blair. Brilliant. And his friends got him off with it and he got a £500 fine. Edward Heath, former PM UK, he is very well known for his perverted abuse of young boys. I spoke to one of his victims and he told me about others who were present. And more important, who was actually supplying the children. The person supplying the children was Sir Jimmy Savile. He was seen, Jimmy Savile supplied a lot of elites with children, like a lot. He was seen by witnesses and victims taking young boys on board Heath's yacht, the Morning Cloud, where at a party conference, Savile was known to supply a number of high-profile MPs with children for them to sexually abuse. Now, see all the paedophiles that were part of the Westminster paedophile ring and the ones that have actually got like the allegations and all that against them. I've got a list of them, right? Like there's loads and loads and loads of them, but see if you want to know all the paedophiles that were in the Westminster the MPs, like I can actually do one and name all them if anybody wants to know. But no tonight. So Lord Robson, a former head of NATO, He is very well known to the police in the UK. He was removed by the United States government because they found out about his perversion from young boys. So he was in the United States and they told him he better leave or they were going to expose him when he came back to Scotland. Right, so that's some of the logs. So I'm going to move on to like going on to Scotland. There was more logs in that, but right, so we've got them right. So thanks guys for bearing with me. So the Guardian, there was a right. This is I'm going to jump on for there. So that's some of the Westminster paedophiles, right? And that's just a hint of the stuff. So all this stuff down there, right? In fact, I'll just go on to this now. All this stuff down there, like, made this Operation U-Tree, a British police investigation that was like sparked with Jimmy Savile in 2012. Right, so this investigation, basically, like, there was loads of celebrities and stuff that it brought up that are part of this big paedophile ring, as I said. So while I'm still on the Englishy one, I'll keep going with this. So mostly other celebrities were investigated in 2013 and they continued an investigation into others in 2015. So 19 people have been arrested, right? So far these people were, on the 28th of October 2012, Gary Glitter, and he was charged with sex offences dating back to the 70s. He was sentenced in February 2015 to 16 years. In attempted rape, sexual assault and sex with a 13-year-old girl. Right, so in November 2012, Dave Lee Travis, disc jockey and radio and television presenter, arrested. He was released on bail and charged in August 2013 in 12 historical sex offences. He was charged with indecent assault against young girls and women and found guilty, and then he was re-arrested in March 2015. He got 8 years. And then he died because he collapsed in jail. On the 28th of March, Rolf Harris, I didn't know that Rolf Harris got away with it, by the way, singer grooming a friend of his daughter, aged 13. On the 12th of February 2016, CPS, with Buster Pulton back in, he would face 7 more charges from ages of 12 to 27, the victims were, and having occurred between the 70s and 2002. A jury couldn't reach a verdict and there was no retrial for him. In June 2013, Chris Dennon, former Radio 1 disc jockey and previously convicted sex offender, he was on bail to 2014 and he was charged with 41 sex offences, 26 male victims, his youngest 9 years old. He was later convicted of more charges in Operation Ravine, and he was sentenced to 13 years. The 17th of December 2013, Michael Salmon, Dr Stoke, Mandeville Hospital were Savile abuse victims and previously convicted sex offender, initially charged with raping 4 girls under 16. In February 2015, he was found guilty of 9 indecent assaults, 2 rapes. The girls were aged between 11 and 18. In January 2016, he was charged with 26 sex offences and convicted of an additional 14 charges in December 2016. He got 18 years and then another 4 years added on. On the 13th of May 2015, Geoffrey Wheeler, BBC employee, in September 2016, counts of indecent assault, and he got 30 hours community service and £150 fine. So that was the police that, but there was, I said there was 1,440 odd members of this, and there was hardly anything done about it. There were other high profile British public figures investigated for sexual offences. TV Radio Stuart Hall, convicted of 15 counts of indecent assault. ITV Granada weatherman Fred Talbot, who was jailed for being found guilty of 7 rapes and 11 indecent assaults. He got 25 years. Coronation Street actors William Roach and Michael Lavelle, they both were separately found not guilty of all charges though. DJ Neil Fox acquitted. That's the soldiers. Right, so basically I'm going to go on to this now. Right, so that was about the That's about England and the Westminster and how these paedophiles operate and the lords and etc etc. And these people, with the reason we're doing these lives is these people are all still running the country. Like, none of them are in jail, like they're all still free. So I want to talk about Scotland now. And the 100-Year Secrecy Act I'm going to start with, rule. So the Scottish Child Abuse Inquiry is currently taking place, and the next part of the Scottish Child Abuse Inquiry is the next part of Scottish Child Abuse Inquiry, the boarding schools. So on the 16th of March, the hearings start again. So the hearings for the Scottish Child Abuse Inquiry is boarding schools. There's 7 boarding schools in Scotland as part of the inquiry for sexually abusing children for decades. But one of them in particular is the Queen Victoria School in Dunblane, and it's been protected by the 100-Year Secrecy Rule. So I want to tell you a wee bit about that, and how I want to call for a review of this. But there's already been reviews called, and I want to give you the names of the Scottish SMPs that keep binning this review. I think there's about 10 of them or something. All the petitions that are put forward, they keep pretending to be fixing it and then they don't do it. So the campaigners call for a review of the 100-Year Secrecy Rule imposed on some documents seen by the inquiry into the Dunblane killings, which were never made public. The Scottish Cabinet this week instructed Scotland's most senior law officer to look again at the 100-Year Secrecy ban placed on a police report on Thomas Hamilton, who murdered 16 primary school children and their teacher. There have been allegations that the lengthy closure order was placed on the report after it linked Hamilton to figures in the Scottish establishment. So they placed this because they linked him to the lords in Scotland and the judges and the QCs, etc., including 2 senior politicians and a lawyer. But the Crown Office says the decision to impose the ban by Lord Cullen, who claimed the inquiry was made to protect the identity of children who may have been sexually abused by Hamilton and their families. So this lord is saying that it's because Hamilton possibly might have sexually abused these children that he killed. Now, I was only aware that Hamilton abused children in the Queen Victoria School in Dunblane. I wasn't aware he abused primary school children in Dunblane, because according to this report that he did, this is why the 100-Year Secrecy Rule was placed, because they didn't want the parents knowing that the guy that killed the kids had actually sexually abused them as well. It is sickening. This is Scotland. But the Crown Office says the decision to impose the ban by Lord Cullen, who chaired the inquiry, was made to protect the identity of the children who may have been sexually abused by Hamilton and their families. So that's what they're saying, it was to protect them. No, it's only protecting the paedophiles that done it. There are more documents covered by the 100-Year Secrecy Rule than this, police reports, some of them having nothing whatsoever to do with the children. So there's more documents covered by the 100-Year Secrecy Rule, and they've nothing to do with the Dunblane shootings. It's to do with the paedophile ring operating in Dunblane. Some of them have nothing to do whatsoever with the children. We need to look at why such a long ban has been put on them in the first place. Michael Matheson, the Deputy Shadow Justice Minister, he said, "I have been contacted by a number of families affected by the tragedy who are anxious to ensure that this information does become public, and so far we have no guarantee that it will. We only have a review." Now, this is by the Scottish SMPs that I'm going to name, that the reason they won't look at this. But even the victims' families are they're desperate and anxious. They're saying anxious. They're anxious to make sure this information becomes available to them, because they want to know what happened and what led to their children being killed. So the report banned under the 100-Year Secrecy Rule was compiled by Paul Hughes, then a detective sergeant at the Central Scotland Police Office, and concerns Thomas Hamilton activities at a summer camp in Loch Lomond in 1991, 5 years before the shootings. So 5 years before the shootings. In this report as well, there was concerns raised against Thomas Hamilton to the police, to the Central Scotland Police, about he was at a summer camp in Loch Lomond, and and that was 5 years before the shootings. So he was reported for sexually abusing boys at the summer camp, and it was also suggested that his gun licence be revoked 5 years before the shootings happened. Because I'm sure in one of the reports it says that he held a gun to one of the kids to abuse them. So they obviously suggested to revoke his licence, but he didn't. They didn't. For 5 years they left him with his gun licence. So Thomas Hamilton also had a gun licence and guns, and it was in a report. So that's hidden by the 100-year secrecy rule. Selected extras published during the Cullen inquiry revealed it recommended that Hamilton should be prosecuted for his activities at the summer camp, and that he should have his gun licence revoked. The report, however, was ignored. Although Lord Cullen referred to it in his inquiry, it does not appear in the final report, so like they made it disappear, it wasn't there, that report. Consent from the Lord Cullen is not needed to overturn his ruling. So see the 100-year Secrecy Act, we don't need consent for this, Lord. It is, the Crown Office said that it's the Lord Advocate that decides if the 100-year secrecy rule. So it's down to us to kind of start pestering the Lord Advocate and asking for this to be lifted for justice for these families. There's been much speculation of the identity of the politicians in the report, so it also identifies the politicians involved in this paedophile ring. It is known that in June 1996, Michael Forsyth, the then Scottish Secretary and MP for Stirling, congratulated Hamilton in running a boys' club in Dunblane. So that's another thing hidden. So also Thomas Hamilton ran a boys' club in Dunblane. Like seriously, this shit's unreal, and they're hiding it all. They're allowed to hide it for the Scottish public. That's the part that's absolutely sickening. Because they just put a 100-year secrecy rule on it so that everybody's dead when the information's available at their big paedophile ring operating. So this is... Right, so I'm on here to tell you, like, this is serious. These are well-known household politicians and other high-ranking individuals within the UK establishments and across the world, and they're sexually abusing their children and engaging in satanic rituals, like right here in Scotland. There's satanic ritual stuff as well. Holly Greig's case was a perfect example of that, swept under the carpet, but it's happening. Paedophile and Satanism is rife within the Scottish high-ranking and the British elite. There are victims out there that are terrified to speak because of these high-profile people, and they have suffered at the hands of these sick individuals, and they can't rely on the support of the corrupt police investigations and the so-called justice systems to get them any justice. Like, because they're not getting any. Like, they go through all that. It's the trauma of giving all this evidence and getting nowhere that destroys these victims, not the actual abuse that happens to them. Like, time and time again, you see this. It's important for all of us to know this stuff. And it's going on, and we can't let it continue, because really, like, who will be next? It'll be your kids and it'll be your grandkids. If we have a duty here in Scotland when we know this stuff, like, we need to stop this. These are high-ranking profile people that are part of a massive paedophile ring, and they're exploiting and abusing our children, and it really needs to stop. Right, people don't realise how organised this stuff is. You're talking about organised crime in a massive scale. Organised crime on child trafficking, child exploitation, right? This is already, so see when you think about it, this is already overtaking the drugs. No, it's the same as the drugs trade now. It's overtaking the arms trade, child trafficking, right, in the world. And it's the same as the drugs trade now. So see if you can get your head around like how many drugs get sold around the world, and how often drugs get sold. That's how often a child is getting sold in Scotland. As much as there's drugs getting sold in the streets in Glasgow, that's how often a child is getting sold in the streets in Glasgow, in the streets in Scotland, and across the whole of the UK. Like, this is real. This stuff is a real pandemic. Like, this is the real pandemic. Think of this, right? They're talking about coronavirus, but they won't talk about child trafficking. They're talking about the spread of the virus, but they won't talk about childs getting raped every day by 10 and 12 men, every single day, different men in flats, right? Would that not spread a virus more than us talking to each other and raising awareness, standing outside? Like, I'm pretty sure I'm right. Like, seriously, so see if the Scottish governments and establishments looked at the problem with child exploitation, child rape and trafficking across our country, then they maybe be able to control a virus that sends out of control, because nobody else is doing anything, but the Scottish government are ignoring that there's 10 men raping one girl in a flat. Like, is that not against their legislations? Why? Is it because they're all paedophiles? Maybe. So there's so much on the web about this corruption, right, and paedophile rings, so you can go on the web and find all this in the Scottish establishments. Like, they're rife, it's been there for years, decades. People don't realise that, as I said, it's organised crime of your children, exploitation and trafficking. These people are Satanists, they're paedophiles. Like, what more evidence does the people need? Like, go and research this stuff. They're satanic paedophiles, organised paedophile rings at the highest level. Military, army, the royal family, the Scottish government, the English government, the Welsh government, the Irish government, they're all a bunch of paedophiles running these countries, like organised paedophile, child trafficking. Right, so people, as I said, people don't realise how organised this stuff is, and they're in pursuit. Like, basically all they want is money and power is what it's all about. Like, they're making as much money off of your children as the rest. Right, you think about this, right? See, when you sell a gun and you sell drugs, you can only sell it once. See, when they're selling children, they can sell children over and over and over and over and over again. For how long's a child a child? That's how long they can keep selling that same child. This is why this is getting out of hand. And every single government's involved in it. It's sickening, it's disgusting, because they're all sick paedophiles as well. Like, we need to stop this, guys. We really need to do something about this. Ted Heath was a former British Prime Minister. He was a child-killing paedophile Satanist. And there's been a few since him. There are networks that control right, so these networks control our governments, national and local. So you're talking about, they control our governments, national as in we're actual in Parliament and stuff, and they control the let's say, like Glasgow City Council and the councils. They control them too. They control the law offices. They control the police, the courts, the coroner's offices, the crematoriums, the social services, the law firms, and so on and so on. And they have their own doctors and pathologists to ensure, when necessary, that they can cover up how people died. So this is what we're up against. These big massive paedophile rings have all this stuff at their hand, right? Children are supplied from prominent members of society through children's homes and other sources, and should they or their families seek to expose what is happening, they are met with a wall of resistance from the police, the social services and the court systems. Scotland is one of the global centres for paedophilia and Satanism. Did you know that, guys? If you want to find a nest of paedophiles and Satanists, look no further than the British establishments and the House of Parliament, and the same goes for Scotland and the establishments in the Parliament. Lord Britton said about Thomas Hamilton, "I have learned of an apparent connection between prominent members of the legal establishment involved in the inquiry and the secret speculative society. The society was formed in Edinburgh University through Masonic connections. Members of the speculative society have included Lord Cullen and a number of other judges, sheriffs and advocates. Plus, it is reported that the former British government ministers and Secretary General of NATO, Lord Robertson, who knew Thomas Hamilton, so Lord Britton was, of course, subjected to the usual dismissal, condemnation and threats. He demanded action, that something be done about this. So and he basically just got shot down like the rest of them. So this was Operation Hydrant, but before I go into that, wait a wee sec. Just to figure out, because it's the 100-year secrecy bill, I wanted to talk about stuff on that. There's more stuff on that in this. I must have done the wrong way in the book. Right, anyway, so I'll just skip back in there. So I'm going to name some people, right? I'm going to give you the names. I'm going to give you the names of some Scottish police officers and some other high-ranking people that have actually been charged and are convicted paedophiles, and like they're all free in Scotland. But first, I'm going to talk about, right, so in May 2015, that Operation Hydrant that I was talking about, that was set up by National Police Chiefs Council. So because of all this stuff and all these paedophile rings and everything that was going on. Like, they set it up to cover Scotland, like the full of the UK. And it was police chiefs, police chiefs council that started the operation, the investigation, because they realised that this paedophile ring was like, it was massive. So it explores the links between, the operation explores the links between child sexual abuse and prominent persons. So, sorry again, I'm just having a wee some in my coffee. So there was 1,433 suspects identified. 216 are now dead. So there's still 1,233 of these people alive, right? 261 are classified as people of public prominence, and 135 coming from TV, film or radio. Of the remainder, a further 76 suspects are politicians, 43 are from the music industry and 7 are from the world of sport. A total of 666 claims relate to institutions across the UK, with 357 separate institutions identified. So that's in total 1,000 institutions. Of these, 154 are schools, 75 are children's homes, 40 are religious institutions, and they also include 14 medical establishments, 11 community institutions, 9 prisons, 9 sports venues, and 28 other institutions, including military groups and guest houses, and another 17 institutions are classified as unknown. So basically, the Queen Victoria School in Dunblane as well, the 100-year secrecy rule protects all the paedophiles there, so the victims really can't like give evidence, and that's the next part of the Scottish Child Abuse Inquiry, and it's restarting on the 16th of March this month. Like, the hearings are going to start. The Queen Victoria School will be last because it's a Ministry of Defence run school. It's Ministry of Defence funded, so the parents only pay a small fee. So basically it's the army pays for it. So, and that's part of the Scottish Child Abuse and Boarding School Inquiries. Like, it was really bad, and that's Thomas Hamilton was a member of that, and he used to shoot in the gun ranges, and then it was through, and he was a paedophile ring in Dunblane operating there, and he abused boys in that school, he used to take them away in trips as well. So that's all protected by this 100-year secrecy rule, and we need to get that abolished. We need to get that lifted because it's not on. So another 17 institutions were classified as unknown. The figures are taken from police forces in England, Wales, Scotland and Northern Ireland. So these figures all come from like the police. And they relate to reports of abuse which police forces were dealing with in the summer of 2014. I feel like I've totally missed something, but I haven't. So Scottish police officers, right? There's new stuff that will come up that I did today though, so for last night's live and am I still going? Yep, great. So Scottish police officers who are paedophiles, right? On the 8th of December 2020, Ryan Anderson, PCE Police Scotland, sent, he's 39, had 724 child abuse images, including 149 in the most serious category A. That's small children and babies being raped. And that was in Carlisle Crown Court. Many of the small children were babies. Anderson was sentenced to 2 years in prison and suspended for 2 years. So he got 2 years, suspended 2 years, so he got nothing. The 39-year-old of Eaglesham Road, Carlisle, pled guilty, but he got free. February 2020, this is Scotland, guys. Paul Bucknell, 50, Police Scotland, charged with online child sex offences in Airdrie Sheriff Court. His duties included covering custody suites throughout Lanarkshire, including Coatbridge. He was granted bail, so he got nothing as well. It covers custody suites in the police stations. November 2020, Robbie Conacher, 36, from Fife, now living in Stirling. He pled guilty to accessing category images of children, and he faces sentencing in January 2021. I've still not heard what happened. That was only a few 2 months ago. He just resigned, as far as I know. On the 19th of July 2020, Stuart Galloway, a former CID officer, he was to appear in court in October 2020 for possession indecent images of children. This CID officer guy was also a former child protection unit officer, and as well as having child abuse images, he worked for the Child Protection Unit, right, in Scotland, and he was stealing all the evidence of the child abuse cases. He was like stealing all the evidence, and he was stealing it and taking it in his loft. The police launched a probe into after evidence linked child sex abuse cases were found in his loft. Footage of interviews with the victims and their attackers, witness statements and other confidential paperwork were discovered at his home. This was by a shocked tenant that didn't know they were there, or whether he did and just had a conscience, I don't know. But this was by a shocked tenant after he'd moved out, because this guy had been living, so this police guy, what's his name again? Need his name. So Stuart Galloway, the former CID officer. So he moved away to Arran. So for anybody that's took people to Arran and that, and he helped run the Broomage B&B with his partner. So they lived in Arran, I think, for about 10 years, and then this stuff was discovered in his loft, and it was discovered that there was, as I said, there was all the stuff at the child abuse cases with the high profile paedophile rings had gone missing, and my dog's growling at something, must be a cat outside, had gone missing, and they were in his loft. So, Simba, it's okay. So as I said, and he ran that the B&B in Arran, the Broomage B&B. So, and he's a paedophile. June 2018, James Paul, Police Constable, Police Scotland, 37, from Bishopton, Renfrewshire. Paul had images of children being bound and raped at a house he shared with his wife and children. He appeared at Paisley Sheriff Court, pled guilty, deferred sentence, it was category A images, and he was placed in the sex offenders register, so he got free as well. On the 30th of January 2018, Ian Jolly, 70, he was a police officer, went to Aberdeen Sheriff Court and admitted to sexually abusing young boys in the 80s and 90s. And he was when he was in the old Grampian force, he pled guilty to 7 charges of performing a sex act on others in the presence of young boys. He got 27 months. And he admitted to indecently assaulting 2 other boys in Aberdeen, and he now lives in Edinburgh, so he's out. All these people are out, and they're all free. That's why we're doing this, and why I'm making these videos. So March 2014, James Ainsworth, an ex-police officer, 62, admitted 7 charges of sexual abuse and 1 of rape against the children in Ayrshire and Dumfries between 1965 and 1990, raping an 8-year-old girl, and he started raping children when he was 14. He sexually abused 3 others, and he sexually a boy at 5, and he was placed in the sex offenders register. He got free as well. So there's a couple of school teachers here, and it was a Fife school in 2019 on the 17th of July. These are school teachers: Robert Denone, 65, Ian Nutman, 60, Philip Barton, 64, Angus Munn, 55, Nigel Lloyd, 59. They're accused of several assaults against children. These are really like serious guys in this a Fife school. All the charges relate to a period between 81 and 2013. Nutman of Kirkcaldy is accused of 10 attacks of sexual abuse and sexual assault, and it was that severe that they led to the boy's life being in danger when they attacked him. Dr Nolan from Kirkcaldy, 4 sexual abuse charges. Barton of Aberdour is accused of 45 offences, including 42 assaults. Prosecutors claim he endangered the lives of 7 of the boys in the cases. They will stand trial in Edinburgh High Court in 2020. I think I must have wrote what they got. No, I haven't heard what they got. I don't know if they got off. In October 2020, John Watt QC, he was extradited from the United States to face charges of historical sexual abuse against 4 girls. It was a paedophile ring in the Scottish legal world he was a part of. So in May 2020, Dr Joseph Crawford for Falkirk, he had 212,463 indecent images of children and 547 videos. He was connected to a network sharing child rape, and he was a respected member of St Andrews University. And so I think he got off with it as well. He's for Falkirk. April 2016, Andrew McLeod, 38, of Ward Road, Dundee. He was part of the criminal justice social work team. He downloaded child abuse images in the Dundee social work office. He got off with it, just left. September 2019, Stephen Henderson, 30. He worked with vulnerable youngsters in Bells Hill. Sexual offences against vulnerable youngsters. He got off with it. August 2020, Children of God cult. That was a guy, Derek Lincoln. That was a satanic stuff. In last year in August. Derek Lincoln, 74, he was extradited for France, because he went away back to France, to Scotland for trial for raping a 9 and an 11-year-old. He got 11 years and 6 months. He was originally from America and operated in Scottish sites in Renfrewshire, Lanarkshire, Ayrshire and Edinburgh. Jimmy Savile allowed to roam freely around Fort Augustus Abbey School, run by the Benedictine Order. That's part of the Scottish Child Abuse Inquiry just now. Another man claimed he was drugged and raped whilst visiting Fort Augustins at the nearby Pusgarden Abbey on a trip from his Catholic school in Glasgow. Right, so, and then you've got Holly Greig, right? This is what I'm trying to say here is, nobody gets convicted in Scotland because they're all high elite paedophiles, judges, lawyers, etc, etc. They don't get convicted because they're the law, right? So, and a perfect example of that's Holly Greig, right? You all know that I'm not going to go into it. I've did a live on Holly, no Holly, but I've mentioned her before. But Holly Greig was a wee girl that was forced into a paedophile ring at the age of 6 by her father in Edinburgh. And was her father a judge? I don't even know who her father, what the high ranking he was. But anyway, she was forced into that and she was raped for years, and then she came forward, she told her story, she gave evidence, gave all the names of the people, and then there was no police investigation launched. Like, they couldn't even get a police investigation off the ground. Everybody get threatened, gagging orders get placed, anybody that tried to raise awareness, and this is in Scotland and Edinburgh. This isn't acceptable. I'm going to raise awareness about it. So anyway, here are the paedophile ring members' names that were involved in raping Holly Greig. So number 1's Dennis Charles Mackey, the father of Holly, and Greg Mackey, the brother of Holly. They're both in hiding in Portugal. The guys are in Portugal. Why are they hiding? There's not a police investigation, but they're hiding. Number 3, Sheriff Graham Buchanan. Susie Buchanan, the sheriff's wife. Evelyn Buchanan, the sheriff's sister. Jack Buchanan, the sheriff's brother-in-law. So there's 4 people connected to Sheriff Graham Buchanan. Now, the reason I'm mentioning all these people is they're still in their positions. They're still in Edinburgh and all the high positions and whatever they are, right? So they'll not be hard to find. Terry Major, ex-Grampian Police. Well, he's now dead. Sylvia Major, Anne Royal, so I'm taking it that'll be his wife. Ex-police officer's wife, Sylvia Major. Anne Royal, Wilfred Dragon, David Smith, Graham Mackey, Gillian Mackey, she's a nurse. Eileen Sim was a social worker. David Lind was the partner of Eileen, the social worker. Helen McDonald's the social worker, another social worker. Ian McDonald, Helen's husband. Carol Law, a nurse. Andrew Young, a headmaster at a school. Ian McDougall, a lawyer. And Athol Scott, an accountant. And all these people are still alive and they're still operating in Scotland, and they're part of a high elite paedophile ring. And there's about 6 victims that can't get any of them prosecuted. And there was satanic ritual abuse involved in that. So these people are Satanist paedophiles, and they live in Scotland and Edinburgh, and they're still allowed to roam free. That's why I had to say the names of these people. As I said, I can't give addresses and stuff out, but that's the names and who they are. So that just goes to show what makes up a paedophile ring in Scotland, right? So let's just see this again, right? So you have Athol Scott, an accountant, right? So you have and Ian McDougall, a lawyer. So you've got an accountant, a lawyer, a headmaster, a couple of social workers, a nurse, a police officer, a sheriff, a judge, a couple of judges. So that's what makes up a paedophile ring in Scotland, like how you're successful and you just get away with it, because you have all the members and that's how you make money, etc, 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 and you just get each other off with it through the court systems. So in June 2020, Derek Kennedy, 34, a police officer for Dundee, he had 3,000 pictures of child rape and 1,118 child rape videos from children from infant to 15, mostly category A, bestiality and sadism. This was in 2019. He was bailed for background reports and placed in the sex offenders register, so he's kicking about as well. So that's Derek Kennedy, 34, a police officer for Dundee. So here's some MSPs, right? Eric Joyce, 39, for Falkirk. He's resigned for grooming a 16-year-old boy. In July 2020, SMP Mark John Kerr, Lanarkshire, 37, sexual abuse charges. He sits in 7 council committees across Scotland, in Clyde and Loch Lomond, local district council, joint committee in Strathclyde, and he's on bail. 3 judges have resigned for the Scottish Child Abuse Inquiry, if he's aware as well, because of the government interference, because it's corrupt, because the government are managing and controlling everything. So it's not an independent inquiry, it's managed and controlled by the Scottish Government when it's supposed to be independent. They were Susan O'Brien QC, she resigned, Professor Michael Lamb resigned, and Glenn Houston. They said they'd no longer had any faith that it was an independent inquiry and they couldn't deal with it, basically. Labour councillor David Fagan, 52, for North Lanarkshire, Airdrie, a member of the council's education and social work committees. He possessed indecent images of children suspected by the Labour Party. Lord Granville Jenner, the Labour peer, accused of raping the 15-year-old boy in the Holiday Inn in Glasgow the night before the boy was due to give evidence. The judge, and it was arranged that the boy was not allowed to name Jenner in court as his rapist, or he would be in contempt of court. This was an idea of the Scottish legal justice system, so Jenner got away with it. In July 2017, former soldier Thomas Nelson, 54, former soldier, committed sexual and physical violence against child victims of Paulrigg Street, Edinburgh. He was found guilty of all charges and the jury returned a not proven verdict. He pled guilty and it was not proven. How's that even possible? So he said, I'm guilty, and they said, no, you're not. Fine. That's the Scottish courts and justice system. This is what I mean. It's insane. It's insane. It's full of paedophiles and paedophile rings. So he was also found guilty of sexual assault in 2 boys, one of whom he put a gun to his head. So he even get a gun and put a gun to his head. Remember, these are soldiers, these guys. He admitted another 4 charges, neglecting children and exposing them to drugs and weapons, and having sex with a 5-year-old girl. And he got a not proven verdict after pleading guilty. Seriously. In May 2000, and wonder why me and Laura get so stressed out and mad about this shit. It's mind blowing. May 2017. Oh no, he was jailed in 2017 and he was released in 2019, so he got out a year ago. That soldier, Thomas Nelson, 54. Alexander McCracken, 39, and his girlfriend, Sharon Campbell. Who were they again? He was an ex-police officer, Alexander McCracken, 39, and his girlfriend, Sharon. These are sickos, man. And they described themselves as no limits paedophile couple. This is how they described themselves in online groups, right? Who love newborn babies. He said he wanted to breed a baby boy to abuse, and he would definitely rape his baby girl. They both shared sickening images of children online. He was released 1 year ago at Christmas. Aye, that's right. So he got out in 2000. It's him that got out. He's out. This guy, Alexander McCracken, 39, an ex-police officer. This guy got out and he's living across the road for a school in 2019. Whereabouts does he stay again? Now, they fantasised about making a baby together so they could rape it and make videos of it. Like, this is the kind of people you're dealing with in Scotland. This guy's just got released and he stays across the road for a school in Scotland after 2 years. So he was released a year ago at Christmas and he was rehomed in a 1-bedroom flat in Ayrshire. Aye, so he's staying in Ayrshire. So that's Alexander McCracken, 39. He's staying in Ayrshire. Right, so a freedom of information request shows that 47 soldiers, sailors and airmen have been referred to the prosecutor fiscal since the start of 2011. This was in 2011, oh yeah. The same period, 39 arrests were made. Child sex offences, including rape and sexual assault. There was only 7 of them convicted. and about 20 allowed to stay in the army while on the sex offenders register. Now, is that not absolutely horrific? So, 20 of them were allowed to stay in the army after abusing children and on the sex offenders register. Right, so remember we've got Dunblane School that's run by the Ministry of Defence. Right, so Peter McKelvey, former Child Protection Officer, claims senior members of the armed forces, peers, judges and politicians were part of a powerful elite who have abused children for decades. John Hay, 46, in October 2020, so he's for Scotland. He was part of the Queen's Guard at Balmoral Castle. Former soldier at the Balmoral Queen's Guard. He repeatedly raped 2 girls on his spree in Edinburgh. He started raping children when he was 12 years old. And he was in I think it's possible he was in one of the boarding schools that was run by the Queen's Ministry of Defence, and then he became a Balmoral Castle Queen's Guard. So then he committed offences. One victim was aged 9 and one was aged 7, the girls he raped. So that is John Hay, 46, he's from Edinburgh. November 2019, the government and the army were accused of covering up torture and sexual abuse and child killings and rape in Iraq and Afghanistan. A year-long investigation by the BBC into the Scottish Regiment, the Black Watch. There was no convictions. Former soldier David Scott, 60, he ran a paedophile ring in Edinburgh. Right, he took a girl in 2010 to a flat where 5 other men raped her. The girl was 8 at the time. She said she saw the men give Scott envelopes with cash in it. Blackfriars, 4 years, Royal Scots, left as he got a 14-year-old pregnant. Oh aye, so he left the Royal Scots Guard because he got a 14-year-old pregnant. I don't even know what that says. 3 years of abuse when she... Also, Laura Lynn, she wanted to be named. She suffered for David Scott for 3 years of abuse when she was just 7 years old till she was 10, and there was no investigation. Only approached 20 years later in 2017 when other victims came forward. So this guy, David Scott, got away with this for years and years and years. All the investigations got shut down until there was that many victims that they had to launch an investigation. So another girl said she was taken to numerous flats and 5 men raped her and envelopes were handed to Scott. A Freedom of Information request shows that there's 90 paedophiles, registered paedophiles in the armed forces. So there you go, Freedom of Information request. There's 90 registered paedophiles in the armed forces. So that was that. So basically, I think that's me nearly covered everything. No, not really, because was there other names? Right, so this is just, remember I said to you, so these are the SMPs involved in, like, throwing all the requests for the 100-Year Secrecy Act for a review on it, for some of the reports to be lifted, like the stuff I told you about Thomas Hamilton. So the MSPs who refuse the petitions to lift the 100-year secrecy rule. So basically, these are members of the Public Petitions Committee. Everybody I'm going to mention except the Caroline Leckie, because she didn't want anything to do with it. All the others except they all lied and they allowed these paedophiles to carry on for all these years since the 100-Year Secrecy Act was put in place. These are the MSPs that are responsible, right? So for the 100-Year Secrecy Act in Dunblane and for destroying anything anybody makes a review on it. So convener Michael Mahan, MSP. Deputy convener John Scott, MSP. Helen Eady, MSP. Jackie Bailey, MSP. Sandra White, MSP, John Thacor Monroe, MSP, Linda Fabiani, MSP, Mike Watson, MSP, Campbell Martin, MSP, Rosie, I don't know what that says, Rosie Can, MSP, Charlie Gordon, MSP. So as I said, these people are all part of the Public Petitions Committee, these MSPs, and they will not, they totally lied. When I say they lied, they lied, they kept saying to the people that were putting the petitions forward that they were looking at it and stuff, and they weren't. It was proven that they never even attempted to look at it. So it was quite clearly known that they're obviously scared of somebody. That is that wee silver book. I must have something in here. 2 wee seconds. So on the Dunblane, actually just before I finish up on that, the Military of Defence said it would be inappropriate to comment on any aspects of the allegations until a conclusion is reached. The Military of Defence is cooperating fully with the investigation. So as I said, this is part of the Scottish Child Abuse Inquiry, and the only reason I keep bringing it up is it's protected by the 100-year secrecy rule. There's victims that are going to have to give evidence, but they can't name their perpetrators because these are all high-profile public figures, and I don't know how this part's going to take place, but it starts back, it was postponed, and it starts back on the 16th of March. 8 members of the paedophile ring, blah blah blah, no, that's not cool. That's not anything to do with that. So no, I think that's everything, guys. So, yeah. So I'll just finish up on that. As I said, like this 100-year secrecy rule in Dunblane is just horrific. We need to stop that. It's protecting so many. As I said, there's members of the high elite paedophile ring in Scotland. So as I said, we have a high elite paedophile ring in Westminster that's operated for decades. All the celebrities, like the people that you've heard coming out, like Jimmy Savile, etc, etc. Scotland is like untouched. Like none of them have been exposed yet. Like this is the global base for this child trafficking and this bullshit. Me and Laura are going to do a live. I don't know if we'll do it on here or probably Facebook. I've been trying to do lives on Facebook, but it doesn't really get anywhere. So as I said, that's how it links. So they've got all the British politicians, then you've got the Scottish politicians, the members of Scottish Parliament. They're all linked to each other. They've all been responsible for covering up paedophiles and hiding paedophiles. Nicola Sturgeon's interfered in the Scottish Child Abuse Inquiry I don't know how many times, not let stuff go forward. And then we have this 100-year secrecy rule that's protecting murderers and paedophiles in our country. Like, we need to stand up against this shit. This shit's insane, and I can't sleep at night for knowing that this stuff's happening to our kids. Like, honestly, it's like throughout our whole system. It's the whole British establishments. It's the royal families, it's the MPs, it's the MSPs, it's the legal system. Now, how can our children be safe? Like, even if your child wants to be a lawyer, they've got to go to one of these universities where they have all these wee clubs that they're just horrific. Like, we seriously need to start coming together and recognising that this stuff's real and it's not going to go away. Our children are being exploited and trafficked on a level beyond your imagination. And see, if you want to worry and moan at us and say, oh, you're out demonstrating and there's other ways to go about it, you're spreading COVID. Think of Nicola Sturgeon ignoring child trafficking in Scotland, how much COVID that's spreading. That wee girls get raped in one day off 10 guys. They 10 men for different countries. These wee girls are getting trafficked in for different countries. If the Scottish Government want to wonder why we've got a pandemic and why there's so many strains of the virus in our country, maybe they should look at human trafficking and child trafficking, because that's where the problem lies. That's where the virus is coming into our country. Nobody people like us that were going visiting our auntie or our dad or our mum and our sisters that we've seen through the whole pandemic. It's not us spreading the virus, it's the traffickers, it's the human and child traffickers in our country. It's the Scottish Government's ignorance and failure to acknowledge that the children that are being trafficked in our country and exploited and raped every day, of course that's spreading COVID, of course that's causing new strains. There's kids coming in here for countries worldwide. Now there's another report published. I don't want to go into too much detail in the one live, I've already been on an hour, but I'll go through it another time. There's another report being published that it's been admitted that although in Scotland, Scotland can't give you statistics either. They're the only country in the world. The amount of children that have been exploited, they don't have numbers, they don't have figures, they're not available, right? We need to make them available. We need to deal with this problem. We need to come together and make these figures available, find these figures. There's grooming gangs at large in Glasgow and Scotland. Me and Laura are going to do a full live on that. The Scottish Government have ignored that as well since 2013. It's got to the point that it's escalated, that the problem is rife. There's grooming gangs and they're exploiting and trafficking our children all across Glasgow in flats, through takeaway shops, taxi companies, you name it. You have no idea the stuff that's going on in your streets. People need to start getting aware. We seriously need to tackle this problem. The real pandemic is the corruption and the child abuse in our country. And like I said, we've got this YouTube channel, Expose Scotland. We've got anti-corruption website where there's videos, and there's also Rob S talks about common law and how we only think the only way we can get these people are going down the common law route. The legal system's so corrupt and full of a bunch of paedophiles. Like, what's the point in even going there and telling them what you know, because they're all going to share it with each other. There's Expose Scotland, Alex Carney as well. He's done a lot of great stuff, and he's got Facebook. He does Facebook lives and raises awareness about mental health. He's got a YouTube channel, AC coming back to life. So like, get all these, subscribe to all these channels and stuff. Anti-Corruption Scotland's got YouTube channel as well, and obviously we've got this one, Expose Scotland. All the same are available on Facebooks. So yeah, and all the lives are available on the Expose Scotland Facebook group page as well. So if you can't find anything, so as I said, like, it's our duty. Like, these people are in the military, right? There were army forces, there were police officers, there were CID, there were national security, there were police guards, there were the royal guards, the royal family members. These people are high-ranking profile people that are running our country, and they are a bunch of satanic paedophile rings. People need to start doing their research. This shit is real, whether you want to believe it or not. It's real, it's happening. Whether you want to, it's too scary and it's disgusting and it's sickening. Think of the children being trafficked in our country. We live in Scotland. It's a duty for us as parents. We deserve better than this. We deserve better than that corrupt establishments that we've got controlling us, and basically our children are born into that. Like, we deserve better as people. We need to take back control of our country. We need to come together. We need to change the laws. We need to bring down the systems. We need to bring down the corruption. And it is a duty for this generation, like us. We need to tackle this problem. It's massive. It's major. Or your children will be next. I can't stress that enough. Your children will be next, whether you like to believe it or not. So if you might be living in a wee comfy bubble, it'll be your grandkids. Because if this problem gets out of control the way it is now, there's not going to be anybody that's going to be able to tackle this. Will be walking in your house and taking your kids off you, and you'll not be able to say or do nothing about it. Like, they'll be taking them off the streets and nobody will even look for them. Why do you think our groups and stuff have to try and find missing kids? So we get a Freedom of Information request. I'll just finish it off on that. Now, this should shock you, right? Since 2018, there's 27,000 missing children in Scotland. Just Scotland. Now, it's a Freedom of Information you can find on the Police Scotland website. 27,000 missing children in Scotland. Now, I've just told you all these paedophile rings operating and how they deal with the light and stuff. Where are these children? Where are our 27,000 missing children? Where did they go? Children don't just fucking disappear. See, when they disappear, where are they disappearing to? Who's taking them? Who's keeping them? Where are they? I want to know where the 27,000 missing children, Nicola Sturgeon, in Scotland are. And I want to know it tomorrow. I swear to God, I've had enough of this crap. Now, as I said, I'll end it on that. That's a Freedom of Information request. 27,000, you should be outraged. 27,000 missing children in Scotland since 2018. Now, come on, seriously. Freedom of Information request. 90 registered paedophiles on the sex offenders register in the armed forces still working in the army. So a paedophile army guy could come busting through your door for the COVID legislations, because we're lovely governments giving these people more powers. This terrifies the life out of me. This is why I'm doing these lives. Like, seriously, Scotland, wake up, educate yourself. know how much danger your children are in, and open your fucking eyes, for God's sake. Sorry to swear, but I need to. Like, I can't take any more of this. Like, seriously, this stuff absolutely sickens me. So as well as you've got all the people and all the paedophile rings, you've got all the Holly Greig names I gave you running about Scotland, all the lawyers running about Scotland, all the judges, everybody, all Dunblane paedophile ring running about Dunblane still, the royal family running about the country. Now, these people are saying that we're spreading COVID. Come on to hell. Come on to fuck. They're raping kids, right? They're raping kids, these people, on a massive scale. They're spreading a virus. They are the virus. These people are the virus, no COVID. These monsters are the virus. Seriously, guys, you need to wake up. Like, I don't know how I can stress it enough. Now, you've got all them running about. And you've also in Scotland, I have to tell you as well, there's 8 members of the worst paedophile ring all get free 6 months ago in Scotland. They're living in Scotland in the outskirts. These guys rape babies. They rape babies. They don't rape any kids older than 3. For 3 and under, they befriend families. Now I'm talking about these guys are engineers. They've got high profile jobs, and the Scottish government gave them 6 years. Now, they were raping babies and distributing this porn worldwide, talking about snuff movies, killing the babies and raping them to death, right? And they distributed this worldwide. These were the worst paedophile ring I've ever seen. Like, the people had to get counselled in the court. They could see all the people that had to hear the evidence. They needed counselling. They're probably still getting counselling, right? These guys get 6 years with the Scottish justice system. 6 years, that's more or less saying, oh, yous are brilliant, we can't wait to get yous out. Like, we love yous. That's what the Scottish justice system is. Seriously. Now, they've gave them new identities, new names. They're running about in different places. So I don't know if any of them are in England, but they're in the UK still. Most of them are in Scotland, and they're under new identities. And as I said, these guys are dangerous. They rape babies. All the names are on my Facebook page and their faces and stuff. So again, that's why it's important to join the Facebook pages. I'm MJ McGurk on Facebook, and Laura is Laura. Oh, Laura has to change her name that much because we get deleted. Find Laura on mine. It's either Laura S Steele or it's Laura La S. So, Laura, help. Put your Facebook page on. So that's Laura's Facebook page. I'm MJ McGurk, and we have a group, Expose Scotland. It's a private group on Facebook. And there's also Anti-Corruption Task Force and Anti-Corruption News with Rob S. And he does a lot of covering with Save Our Children. There's a video of Alex Carney with Rob S. talking about like how we need to tackle this problem about trafficking in our country. So please, guys, go and add the groups and the pages and the YouTube channels. And again, thanks for supporting us. And I just, Laura La S, there you go. Laura La S on Facebook. And then there's Robert Sproul is Rob S. And then there's MJ McGurk is me. Alex Carney's got Facebook. And if you get Billy Knox, my photographer, he's got all the photos and everything. He's amazing, that guy. I can't give that guy enough credit. Billy's got a YouTube channel as well, but we can't get him banned with our stuff because he's a professional guy. But anyway, guys, thanks very much. I'll end it on that, and again, we'll be back to just expose the shit out of this country. And fucking seriously, like, we need to come together as parents of the children in this country and tell our Scottish establishments that they're no longer raping and selling, exploiting our children. Like, it needs to stop. It needs to stop with us. Like, we seriously need to stop it. It needs to stop with our generation. We can't know this shit and know these pedophiles and just die and let this continue. Like, seriously, they are the real virus, guys. And me and Laura can shout. Me and Laura are writing freedom information requests. We're writing letters to the Scottish Government. They're denying it's happening. But we can only do so much. And Rob S., he's serving papers. He's served the High Court. He's served Nicola Sturgeon. He's made claims for us. Made claims of the people that against these people for the crimes against us. The High Court, the Sheriff Court, Nicola Sturgeon and Ian Livingstone. Oh, before I go on Ian Livingstone. Right, so we've got the corruptness in our country, right? And when I was doing some research on Ian Livingstone, our Chief Constable that's in charge of everything, all the operations, everything. Ian Livingstone's in charge of everything, right? Right, so I just have to mention this before I go about corruption, right? So he's a police chief for Scotland, right? Now I found out while doing research, he studied law and he got a law degree in Scotland and he was a lawyer here. So he was a criminal lawyer, like representing criminals, right? In court, like getting criminals off with charges, right? And now he's a chief constable for Scotland. Is that not a conflict of interest? Right, so anyway, so he was a lawyer defending criminals for years. Then he went to the United States, to New York. This is Ian Livingstone, our chief constable for Scotland, and we wonder why we're not getting anywhere. Why they're all covered, why they've always got an answer, why they can do what they like. Well, this is the people that are running our country. The guy running our police force has got 2 law degrees. He got a master's degree in New York. Then he came back here, and he had, I don't know if he had his own lawyer's office, if he worked there, I'm going to find out about that. But he had a solicitor's office, right, and he was representing criminals, and then he becomes a police officer. Is that even allowed? Like, you know who all the criminals are? They've told you all their deepest, darkest secrets, and now I'm the chief police of Scotland. Like, surely that's a conflict of interest. Like, that guy could blackmail people and stuff. Like, I don't... That's corrupt. That's corrupt. That's corruption. That's a conflict. That's it. He should not be allowed to be chief constable if he's been a lawyer in Scotland for years. And he's still a member, that's right, he's still a member of the Legal Society, like he's still a prominent active member of the Legal Society in Scotland. He's had a medal for the Queen herself, and he's one of the Queen's, what is that called? Her Majesty's Incorporate constables. So he's a police for the Queen as well. So, we know what they're all paedophiles, so like, Ian Livingstone, why are you protecting these people? Why are you protecting these people? Like, you are corrupt to the core, and seriously, if you're not a part of these paedophile rings, then I'm going to be 100% say you know about them, you know who is. And as I said in my live last night, like, see if you're a lawyer or a judge or a QC, right, and you know about this stuff because it's rife within your institutions, like, you have a duty to tell the Scottish public, see us, you have a duty to tell us that your friends are paedophiles and they're stealing babies and they're raping babies because you've heard about it and you know about it. See, just because you're not doing it doesn't mean you don't have a duty. You have a duty to us, the people of Scotland, to start telling us what you know. What you know about these paedophile rings in operation. What you know about these guys beside you. Give us the evidence we need because you work beside them, or else you're just as bad as them. How you can sleep at night, I don't know. The people that know, the QC beside the QC that knows he's a paedophile, you need to start opening your mouth and telling people. You need to start exposing them and saying, this guy's a paedophile. See, if you've ignored it for years and years and years, now's the time to start coming forward and say, this stuff makes me sick, and redeem yourself. Redeem yourself right now, or else you're coming down with the rest of them. You will be classified as a paedophile when these paedophile rings in Scotland are smashed, because we are going to bring these elite paedophiles down. And see, if you have remotely even heard them whispering about it, you're coming down with them. So, as I said, I'm just going to go because I start getting angry when I'm talking about that. When I'm looking at freedom of information requests. In Scotland, we've got 27,000 missing children, and judges and QCs and lawyers that can run about the countries and no tell us where our children are. And they're paedophiles and they're part of paedophile rings. Where do you think your children are? Do you think our children are still in this country? Because I don't. I think we've got other people's children in this country and those in a different country. It's like the swap kids or something. Like, I'm seriously getting sick of this. So again, I'm going to end it on this, guys, and thanks again for tuning in. I'm always on here for ages. And I will be back. I'll be back with a video on the grooming gangs that are active. And me and Laura could maybe try and do it on here. I don't know if we could do that. We can do one together on here, I'm sure we can. About the grooming gangs, so we don't get through it like Facebook. The grooming gangs that are active in Glasgow just now, in Scotland, across Scotland. They're rife, they're massive. There was an operation in 2013. The Scottish Government let them all go. They formed all these grooming gangs and trafficking gangs, and they're basically absolutely destroyed the kids of Scotland. Like, there's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of victims of these paedophiles, and they're still running about Glasgow now, trafficking our children. And it's like, we need to stop this. So that's what the next video will be on, guys. And if I find anything else on anybody. But as I said, Ian Livingstone, he's one to be looked into, definitely. And I don't understand why you can be a solicitor and then be a chief constable, because if you've represented the criminals you're now convicting, surely that's a conflict of interest. So I'll leave it on that, guys. And as I said, add all our YouTube pages, look at Rob Essie's stuff, Look at Alex Carney's stuff. Look at Laura. Laura. Right, it's in the comments. Laura's Facebook page, and the lives are on my page, and they're in Expose Scotland private group. Join my private group on Facebook, and you'll find all the pictures and the videos of what we've been doing to raise awareness. And we'll continue to expose our Scottish elites and our Scottish paedophiles, and raise awareness and try and keep our children safe. So I'll leave you on that note, and good night everybody. Take care of yourselves, and God bless, and keep your kids safe. And thanks for watching.